Hello class. This video is gonna be a review of our last lecture. It is not mandatory, but I suggest you to watch it if you would like to go over the things that we did the last class, and especially if you missed that lecture. Let's get started. So we're gonna jump straight to listing files and directories and which commands we use for that. Listing files and directory. When we talk about listing, what we mean is displaying the content of a file, of a directory, sorry, or the directory or file itself. That's what that means. Um, for that, we use the ls command. The ls command is used for listing the content of a given directory or the file or directory itself. ls can be used with or without arguments. Let me make this bigger. Voila. Using ls without a file or a directory lists the content of the present working directory, meaning the place where you're currently working at in the terminal. ls has a lot of options. You can see them with the command man ls, and if you try that command right now, for instance, let me open a terminal real quick. If I do man ls to see the manual page for the ls command, I can read this document over here. It's not very friendly, but it does its job. You can go up and down on this document using the arrow keys. More on the man command later. To exit this window, let's press the Q key on your keyboard and you're back. I'm going to close this terminal now. Let's go back to the presentation. ls sorts the output alphabetically if no sorting option of arguments are given. ls can sort the output, meaning the content of whatever directory you're listing, by name, the last time it was modified, file name, or extension. You can read more about the ls command in our website, in the website for the course over here, robertalberto.com/linux commands/ls.html, and the ls command manual page as I showed you before. Examples of the ls command. Listing the content of the present working directory. Just type ls. I'm going to open my Ubuntu machine real quick to give this a shot. Sorry. Bad password. That's the right one, I think. And the third one is a champ. Give it a second. I'm going to open my terminal. And right now I am in my home directory, as you can see, my home student. And if I want to list the content of that directory, my home directory, I will type ls. This shows the directories and the files in my current directory. Let's go back to the presentation. List all the files inside the present working directory, including hidden files. For this, we need to give ls the option of -a. This option is gonna show us not only the regular files like you see right now, but also whatever is hidden in here, including the previous directory and the current directory. We have a couple of hidden files over here, like the bash rc, which is the bash configuration file, and we have also a couple of hidden directories, like the .mozilla directory. In Linux and most Unix system, a hidden file is a file whose name starts with a period. If you want to hide a file in Linux, all you have to do is put a period in the name. For instance, I'm going to open my file manager over here. As you can see over here, I don't see hidden files because none of these start with a period. But if you press Control key and letter H, it reveals all the hidden files. Now I'm going to go back to the way it was before. If I create a new folder and I call this new folder period hidden underscore directory, you're gonna notice that it doesn't show over here. But if I do Control H, you're gonna find that the directory is right here. I'm going to go back to how it was, close this, and let's see how we can do this on the terminal. I'm gonna clear the screen, and if I type ls, you're gonna see that that hidden directory doesn't show. But if I do ls -a, in this output you're gonna find that hidden directory right over here. And the same thing applies to files. I'm gonna clear the directory and let's go back to the presentation. List all the files inside a given directory, ls -a, and then provide the directory itself. For example, I'm gonna go back to my Ubuntu machine and I want to see everything inside the pictures directory, including the hidden files. So I can do ls -a to show me all, and then I'm going to provide the absolute path to my pictures directory. As you can see, I have no hidden files, but I have a bunch of screenshots over there. Sorry about that. Now, I can also do the same thing using a relative path, because as you can see, pictures, the pictures directory is inside my current working directory. So I can do ls-a pictures, and there you go. I can also use the home environment variable like we saw during our lecture, ls home, and then pictures. Done. Okay, I'm gonna clear the screen. Let's go back in here. I can long list all the files inside a given directory, excuse me, recursively. There is an error over here. There is an error over here, and that is missing an option. The option is R for recursive. Let's go back in here. There you go. So if I want to long list all the files inside a given directory, I give them option -L and then R for recursive. Recursive means list the directory, the subdirectories inside the particular directory, and also all the files that this particular subdirectory contains. Now, this is better understood if we do it graphically. So I'm gonna go back to my Ubuntu machine over here, and I'm gonna open the file manager. Over here, remember that we have a hidden directory. So if we go here, Control H, I'm going to rename this directory. So I'm gonna rename it showing example underscore directory. I'm gonna go inside here and I'm gonna create another directory, and this one is gonna be called I don't know, notes. I'm gonna create another directory, and this one I'm gonna call it history. I'm gonna create another directory, and this one is gonna be called, I don't know, math. Inside here, I'm gonna create a file. So I'm gonna do it the long way. I'm gonna go inside my applications, no accessories, right here, text editor, and I'm gonna put here, this is a file, and I'm gonna save this inside the particular directory that I created. This will be example directory, and I'm gonna save it right here, and I'm gonna give the name of file, and I'm gonna save it. Now let's save this exact same file in a different place as well. Save as, and I'm gonna put one inside notes, and this time I'm gonna call it my notes. Save. Let's save it one more time. This case, I'm gonna save it in math, and I'm gonna call this math work. There you go. Let's close it. And now you see that I have one file over here. I also have one file inside notes. I have one file inside math, and there is nothing inside history. How about we put a picture in here? So I'm gonna use Flameshot to generate a screenshot, and I'm gonna save it in example directory and history. Save. So I have one file inside each directory. Now I'm gonna do a recursive list of the example directory by doing ls -L for long list. And let's see the long list first. So we're going to do ls-l example underscore directory and press enter. As you can see, I get a bunch of stuff here in the front, and finally the file name. We're gonna go over what all of these things means in a little bit, but for the meantime I just want you to remember that if you ever need to long list a file, you use the -L option. Recursively means show me what is in the directory and what's inside the directory and inside the subdirectory. So I'm gonna do a capital R, and I'm gonna keep the exact same thing, ls-r example directory, and press enter. Example directory contains the following file, history, math, and notes. Inside example directory, we have 3 subdirectories, and they are listed over here: example, history subdirectory, and what is inside history. The same thing goes for math, and the same thing goes for my notes. Let's clear the screen. And let's do now a long list, including hidden files, and also recursively. So we're going to do ls minus, let's say, long list, a for everything including hidden files, and then recursively. But before we run this command, let's create a couple of hidden files here. So let's go inside example directory. Let's create a hidden directory. This one is going to call hidden. And now let's go inside notes. And inside notes, let's duplicate this, copy and paste. Let's rename it to other notes. Let's put a period to make it hidden. There you go. Let's close it. And now if we run our command, you're going to notice that we get a long list. But not only we get a long list, but it also includes the hidden files over here since we specify the A option. And it is recursive, as you can see. Let's clear the screen and go back to our presentation. This picture explains all the other stuff, all the other data that you saw when you did a long list. So let's start with the first column, which indicates the file type. A D represents a directory and a hyphen represents a regular file. Then you get a set of file permissions over here, which we'll not get into in this video. There is a lecture coming specifically on file permissions. We'll leave that for when that time comes. Then we have the hard link count. Later on in the following videos, I will explain what a hard link is. Then you have the owner, the group, and the file size in bytes. Then you have the modification time, the last time the file was modified, and we have then the file name. In this case, this was a long list of the desktop directory. Now let's go back to our Ubuntu machine and let's do a long list again of I don't know, the example directory. Example underscore directory. If you run this command like this, what ls is going to do is that it's going to show everything that is inside the example directory. It's not going to list the directory itself. If you want to list the directory itself, meaning you want to see information about the directory, you can do the D option that will only list the directory itself, not the content of the directory. So let's press enter and take a look. Over here we see that this is a directory. We see the permissions over here. We see the hard links. Then we see over here the owner and group. Then the file size, which is 4 bytes. Then we see the last time that it was modified, which was March 17 at 6:22 p.m. And then the directory name. Now let's clear. And let's go back to our presentation. Now, this is just a basic, the same thing that I explained before, what each and every one of the columns means. We can skip this. Now let's see a couple of more examples of the ls command. To list all the files in a given directory sorted by last modified, this one will exclude hidden files, as you can see by the absence of the A option. We do -t documents, ls -t documents, and this is going to sort the file by which one was modified last. For example, we know that the notes directory contains 2 files, so let's list that one. Let's do ls -t, and let's do also a long list so that we can see the modification time, and do example underscore directory, and let's go inside the notes directory, and let's press enter. Sorry, the second file is a hidden file, so we need to give the -a option. And there you go. Which file appears last? Right over here. Let's alter this output. Let's go inside example directory, let's go inside notes, and let's modify this file. Let's say this is a file, this is another file. Save it with Ctrl S or the save button on top, and let's close it. Let's close the file manager. Let's go inside the terminal and run the same command one more time. As you can see, other notes appears before my notes, since other notes was modified first. Was modified last. Apologies for that. Now you see these periods over here. for example, one period representing the current directory and two periods representing the previous directory, as we saw when we were using the cd command. If you don't want that, if you want to suppress that from the output, you can use the capital A option, which will exclude the period for the present directory and the two periods for the previous directory. So if you press enter, you see that those two are no longer present in the output. Let's clear the screen. Let's go back to our examples over here. List all the files in a given directory sorted by file size. We'll do the same thing. The only difference is that it's going to sort it by file size first. For instance, since we have two lines, two sentences or two lines in the hidden file in our previous command, if we run the command one more time, but instead with the capital S option, you're going to notice that other nodes appears first since it has since the file size is bigger. This one is 34 bytes, this one is only 16. Let's go back over here, and we see that if you want to sort by file extension, you can use the -X if you want the capital X to be precise. If you want to reverse the order of the sorting, you can do the minus lowercase r. For example, I want to do the same thing here, but in this case, I want the file with the smallest size to appear first. For instance, I want to invert this output. So I can do, instead of S, I can keep the S, but instead of all of this, I'm going to add the lowercase r for reverse. And as you can see, the smallest file appears first. Then we have -R for recursively, as we saw earlier, and we have a list of all the options of the ls command. If you want to see all the options, you can do ls -help. Again, you can also read the man page, but let's see what the help option gives us. It's a preview of the man page, pretty much summarized in a single output. And here you can see all the options of the ls command. On your free time, go over them, practice them, since the ls command is canonical to your learning. You know, the ls command is one of those commands that you shouldn't Google. It's one of those commands that should stick to you. Let's clear the screen. Let's go back to our presentation. That concludes listing files and directories. If you had any question, please write them down, ask him in Discord, bring them to class, whatever the school opens again, or email. I suggest Discord because not only I will be able to see the question, but also will the rest of the class. I'll see you in the next videos, creating files and directories.